So we're going to talk about how your hands work in a golf swing. I find it interesting that the industry right now, a lot of them talk about take your hands out of the swing. No. Try to throw a ball and don't use your hands, or try to shoot a basketball and not use your hands. If you use your hands correctly, you can't use them too much. Now, the reality is in golf, hand action's been taught a couple of ways. Part of the reason I'm doing what I'm doing today is because when I started out, my hands worked in the most efficient, effective way to make the ball go fairly straight and fairly far without a lot of practice. And then I got trapped into or asked to make a golf swing. Well, it was a whole different hand action. I got pretty good with it, but never as good as I was when I started out at controlling the ball. So what was that deal? Well, there's two ways for your hands to work, or your arms. You can buy into this concept where there's a lot of this going on, this forearm rotation, take it back, open the face, hold the angle, rotate your forearms, bow your left wrist. That is a way to play. I did it for probably 10, 12, 14 years. I got decent with it, but not nearly as good as I was at 16, 17, 18, 19 when I wasn't doing that. What was I doing? I was playing this way. So my hands worked like this. If you watch this stick, so here's what my hands were doing from waist high on the downswing to waist high on the follow through. This is how my hands were working. They weren't doing a lot of this. So regardless of when I ran into the ball, whether my hands were ahead of the ball, even with the ball behind the ball, all that did was change the trajectory, but the ball went fairly straight. Novel concept. So here's what we're going to do. You can see this stick. So what we're going to do, when your left hand's on the club, you're not like this. You're not palms opposing. This arm is turned sideways. Now the other reason this is important is when you hit something with this hand, that's how you're going to hit a tennis ball. That's how you hit a baseball. You don't bow your wrist. That's a weak joint. Now can you play from there? I did for a long time. A lot of players have. There's some that still do, but it's going away quickly. So this wrist works back and forth, okay? So it's doing this. It's just hinging back and forth. It's called ulnar and radial deviation. So it's doing more of that. What is this one doing? Flexion and extension. So my hands are working this way. And then over here, so if I set up to the ball here, there's my left hand, which it's going like this. So there's where I am at the dress. When I come back to impact, it's there. And then if I put my right hand on, my right hand's working this way, through this area. As I go through the ball, this stays at a 90-degree angle to my swing arc, and my left wrist then works this way. It doesn't have to do that. So we set up, boom, boom, boom. So now we're going to look at it from my perspective relative to the target line. So here's your left hand, and it's going to work. So again, the left hand works like this. It starts here, it goes there, it comes down, runs into the ball, it works like this over here. My right hand starts here, it goes back, it comes down, it runs into the ball, it goes around like this. So put both hands on. There's my left, which is going to work back and forth. This one is going to flex and extend. So now my hands go back. And they come back down. Hit the ball. Now, once you start to feel that and we tie that into the club face and you start watching how the club face is working, now you put the connection, you start to see how easy it is to control the face. The more your hands and arms are doing this, the more this happens, the harder it is to time the face. And now what TrackMan and all these launch monitor companies, what they've done for us is they've allowed us to understand that 1 or 2 degrees of face alignment change from shot to shot can curve the ball 30, 40 yards offline. 3 or 4 degrees with the driver, and you go 3 or 4 open to 3 or 4 closed. Now the ball, I mean, it's off the golf course both directions. Well, that's, in your time to time at high speeds, all of this face rotation, that's difficult to do.
So all of you want to hit the ball far. Well,
I've been competing in long drive since 2016.
this starting static and not having any left to go right thing that came up in the 80s has really hurt a lot of people relative to creating speed.
All right, we're gonna cover 3 speed drills, very simple. I'm just gonna try to fight for some more. As much as I can. It's about force production. Your nervous system has to light up, sending signals to the brain.
So the grip's important because it gets this lever system so that the joints work the way they should work to hit a golf ball.
Let's get those things down, because there's a lot of speed there with the arms that people just don't use, in my opinion. Where if someone's over the top, and that's where people get so frustrated, what that's gonna produce is a shot that starts left and has a ton of spin, as we're hitting up on the driver. 40 or 50 yards.
40, yeah, whatever,
350,
whatever.
360.
You're going to hit it farther.
Now we're going to go to L-to-L. Now, this drill, relative to the golf swing, is really important that you're able to understand this from an angle of the club perspective, how your hands work. It's really critical that you get this down, because if you start making bigger swings and your body starts moving more, and this isn't working correctly, you're going to struggle ever making it consistent. So what is the L-to-L? Well, you set up to the ball, and when you go back, when my left arm gets parallel to the ground, this creates a 90-degree angle. Now I come back down and I run the club into the ball, and then over here on the follow-through side, by the time my right arm gets parallel to the ground, I've created another 90-degree angle. Now the other thing, if you watch my wrist, this stick, my wrist is staying to here at a 90-degree angle to my swing arc. Now as my arm goes up a little bit, it rotates, it externally rotates in my shoulder socket, so the stick turns a little bit. Why? Not because I'm twisting my hand. This is doing the same thing. What happens is my arm rotates in my shoulder socket, so what does the stick look like it's doing? But really, it's the same issue. If I turn my arm back to where it was down here in my shoulder socket, see, it hasn't rotated. It would be just like this. But because my arm rotates in my shoulder socket, it goes here. I come down, I hit the ball, my hand goes through like this. Now over here, my left arm rotates in my shoulder socket, my right arm rotates in its shoulder socket, and so this looks like it turns a little bit. And it does a little, but it's not turning this way with my forearm. Now there's very little of this going on. There's some of my arm rotating. See what that does to the stick? But that's not my forearm and my wrist. All right, so we set up to the ball. You want to take the club back to this L here. You come down and you run the club into the ball, and then you create an L over here. Now we're going to start with this foot drop back, because I don't want your bodies involved at first. We've got to get a feel for this lever system. So this is working without you moving, because most everybody, if they move, they get out ahead of this system and this levers, and they don't feel what they're supposed to do. So you set up, drop your right foot back, go back, we're going to run the club into the ball, let it rehinge up to that 90-degree angle on the follow-through. So it goes back. So now we get a look at this from my perspective. So here we're looking down, and there's my right hand. So as it goes back, it's going to hinge this way. Now, as I go back, as I get towards the top, my arm starts to rotate in my shoulder socket. So this starts to turn. Why is it turning? Because my arm is rotating in my shoulder socket. And then it comes back to here, and then it goes down, and it runs into the ball, and then it goes around over here. And now I've hit it, and now it works this way. So now as I get here, my arm starts to rotate my shoulder socket the other way, so what does the stick do? Now it starts to turn because my arm is rotating in my shoulder socket. Now we'll do the same thing with both hands. So now as it goes back, you can see what my right hand's doing. You can see what the face is doing relative to the target line. So we get here, and now my hands happens. Now again, the stick is turned. Why? Because my right arm is rotated. My left wrist is just hinged backwards. That's that ulnar and radial deviation. Then it comes down. Now the stick is back to a 90-degree angle to the swing arc. The club runs into the ball. So now we run the club into the ball. As the club hits the ball, now as it's going through over here, you can see what my right hand's doing. So right there, it's still at a 90-degree angle to my swing arc. Now from here, as my hands go up, what happens? My right arm rotates in my shoulder socket, so the stick starts to turn. Now, looks really simple. There's a lot going on there. There's a lot of skills involved. Your arms have to be relaxed. Your wrists have to work correctly. Your shoulder sockets have to be loose. These are all skills that we've been building to this point, and now we're starting to put them together before we start getting the body moving a lot. You move the body too soon, and your hands and arms don't know what to do. Honestly, over my career, I haven't seen too many people that can make that work. A few can do it, but not many. And the ones who can already had a lot of control with their hands relative to the face. The tour players. They can move their bodies any way they want to move them, and their hands go, okay, if you're going to do that, here's what I have to do with the club. Well, why can they do that? Because they've trained these. Most people, they know they have hands. I guess they come out of the sides of their bodies and they put it on a club like this, and then from that point on, it's all about what your stomach does and your shoulders and shift your weight and all of this. Well, you lose total control of the club. You never had it to start with. So this is a real critical point in the golf swing to be able to do this L-to-L drill correctly.